Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. If you haven't met me before, my name's Adam Roberts. I'm from Southern Cross, based in Melbourne, and very lucky today to have some of our colleagues here. We have Mr. John Crowder in the background. John is going to talk to us about visas and StudyLink and admissions a bit later on. But before we jump in today, I'd just quickly like to introduce our two new superstar onshore recruiters and get them to say hello. So we'll go first of all to Melbourne, where we've got Maria. You want to say good day there, Maria?
Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining today. It's good to see you all.
Good one, thank you. And then Laura.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today.
All right, good stuff. Thanks, guys. So what we're going to run through today from Southern Cross, we're specifically focusing on Melbourne and Sydney, and really the graduate diploma of education that's just been launched. We're going to talk to you about the upcoming intakes and how to get your students into them. We're going to talk to you about what scholarships are available, and also give information on timetables, how students enroll, and other tips on getting them into the courses. We also have some good news for you about being able to recruit into the main campus courses up at Lismore and Gold Coast. After that, John Crowder is going to get into the serious stuff, and he's going to talk about some of the recent changes from the Australian government to do with visas for students in Australia, and also some tips on StudyLink and how to drive that to get your students into the courses. So just to kick off, firstly, most of you are probably aware that we only launched the Graduate Diploma of Education in Early Childhood about 2 months ago in Sydney and Melbourne. It's our first intake coming up, and the orientation actually starts happening next week for that T3 intake. So the Grad Diploma, it's a 1-year course. It's made up of 8 units, and it prepares students to go and work in early childhood settings. Now, to get into the course, the students need a minimum of the equivalent of an Australian bachelor degree, and there is an IELTS requirement of 6.5 with no band less than 6.5. Most of our students achieve that through an alternative mechanism, though, which is studying in Australia. And if you do have any questions about that, John will be able to answer that in the second section. So just some really important things. We have an intake coming up where the orientation starts next Monday. Now, students can still apply for that all the way up until Wednesday, the 3rd of July. So that's not next Wednesday, but the Wednesday afterwards. If they want to apply, they need to get their application in before midday on the 3rd of July. They can then go and accept on the same day and start studying. If you do have any students that have already applied, been accepted into the course, it's very, very important that they make it to orientation. Orientation starts on Monday next week, and I'll show you in a minute why that's so important. If you've got students that aren't going to make it for the June-July intake, the next intake is in August, and the deadline for applications is the 28th of August. So we call that T4, and it is possible to apply. There are still places available, and applications can be submitted right up until the 28th of August. Just in terms of tuition fees and scholarships, it's one of the more affordable courses at Southern Cross University. It's only $29,400. Every student is receiving a $5,000 scholarship that comes off the fees. So that means it's $24,400 when the scholarship's reduced. And if a student has a high GPA of 5 or 7, they can be awarded a scholarship up to $8,000. So guaranteed scholarship of $5,000, possible to get $8,000 if they have a high GPA. There's no need to include any extra documents or request a scholarship. It's automatically awarded to students when they apply. Just a final reminder, the 3rd of July is the final day to apply for the current intake. So you've got about 13 days until the application deadline there. Now, I mentioned that orientation is very important. For this course, we highly recommend that students attend it because it's only a 1-year course. If they come in late, they spend a bit of time getting ready and settling in, it's going to make it difficult to be successful in the course. So on Monday, orientation starts at 9 o'clock. It runs through until 4:30. On the first day, apart from the general welcome, students set up their enrollment, they enroll into their units, and they basically get activated in all of the university systems. That's a really important day to attend. Day 2, which is Tuesday, 9 o'clock in the morning, there's a session for students on how they do their placements. So industry placements throughout the course. This is the session where they learn how they're organized, what they need to get done in time to get their placements organized by the end of the course. So both of those days are very important. After they do the placements from 9 to 10, they then get into the university systems and finalize their enrollment. So just again, we know some students are working, but very important they attend those 2 days if they can. Now, what I'm showing here on the screen is a sample of a timetable for what a student starting in T3 in the June intake will go through. You can see there that the student will be studying through term 3, term 4, and term 5. In their first term, they're taking 2 units and their placements start from the second term. So that's probably going to be late August when the students' placements start. They roll through term 5. Students then have a break after Christmas. That's called the summer term. They come back for the final 2 terms and then they complete the course by the middle of next year. So the placements do start in the second term of the course, which means a student should organize their working with children check as early as possible. Because they take time to come through, students will be starting their placement 1 term in. We highly recommend they start getting that done as soon as they're thinking of applying for the course. All right, that's their details about the course and the orientation. Just some other general news from Southern Cross, which is really good news for all of our agent partners out there. For those of you that don't currently have a contract with the main campus, all of the Ventures agents, so all of the agents recruiting into Sydney, Melbourne, and Perth, on Monday next week, you're going to receive, or your agency will receive, a contract that covers not just Sydney, Melbourne, and Perth, but also covers the main campuses, which is Gold Coast, Lismore, and Coffs Harbour. So at the moment, there's 2 sets of agents, one recruiting into that group, one recruiting into that group. From next week, we're combining it, which means that through one contract, all of our agencies will be able to access all of the Southern Cross campuses. So those contracts are going to be sent out, and once they're signed and returned, you'll be up and running in the system. At this stage, please continue to contact Maria and Laura as your initial point of contact. And they'll continue to be your support person for recruiting into Sydney, Melbourne, and Perth. All right, so that's the intro information from me. I'm now going to hand over to John Crowder to run us through some visa updates. If you do have any questions, please put them in the chat in the Q&A, and we should definitely have time to get to them at the end. So I'll now hand over to Mr. John Crowder.
Thanks, Adam, and good afternoon, everyone. So I'll be going through 2 points with you this afternoon. The first will be the recent changes to onshore visa requirements, which I'm sure many of you will already be aware of, but I want to put that in context and what that means for Southern Cross University and our ability to accept students on certain visas. And secondly, we will go over the acceptance process for students applying through StudyLink. I understand there's been a few problems with that and maybe a few questions. Before I start, I just wanted to thank everyone for their patience as we transition into this new system. So for those of you who have been working with us for a while, we've been using Accelerate for the last couple of years. From about a week and a half ago, all applications in Accelerate were stopped, and all applications are now done via the StudyLink portal. Now, obviously, with the implementation of any new system, there are always some teething problems. We have managed the transition to StudyLink very well. But we know that there have been a couple of cases where there have been some delays due to reasons outside of our control. Those issues are now being resolved, and we expect things to get back to normal very quickly. So firstly, in relation to the onshore student visa changes, you will probably be aware of the update in legislative instrument 16/016. This is a recent change that comes into effect on the 1st of July. Basically, what we're looking at with this change is you'll remember that the Australian government initiated their migration strategy in December last year, and the basis of that strategy was to ensure that the student visa program is a program of integrity and is only open to genuine students. One of the issues the government was trying to resolve was the number of permanent temporary residents in Australia. These are students who have been in the country for a significant period of time, usually more than 5 years, where they have been on a student visa, then applied for a 408 visa, then applied for a 485 visa, and now want to apply for a student visa again. And we've seen many students who have been in the country for 10 or more years, still studying, still on student visas or a combination of different visas. The government has mandated that this needs to stop, and that once students finish studying, they will either need to go home or apply for permanent residence if they can after their temporary residence has expired. So to support these reforms, the LIN 16/016 has been expanded from the 1st of July this year to prevent applicants on a number of visa subclasses from applying for a student visa onshore. The purpose of this change is to ensure that temporary graduate visa holders leave Australia or find skilled jobs or pathways to permanent residency. It also means that applicants seeking to study in Australia are expected to apply for a student visa from offshore. This means that students will no longer be able to apply for a student visa if they enter the country on a visitor visa. Next slide, please, Adam. So the visas that have been included in the legislative update are students on a 485 visa, a 600 visitor visa, 601 electronic travel authority, 602 medical treatment, 651 e-visitor, or 988, which is maritime crew. Students on any of these visa subclasses from the 1st of July will no longer be able to lodge an application for a student visa onshore. Students holding these visa subclasses, if they want to apply for a new student visa, must leave Australia and apply for a new student visa from offshore. So this will obviously impact a large number of students, particularly those currently on a 485 visa who hope to transfer back to a student visa. This will no longer be possible from the 1st of July. Next slide, please, Adam. So what are the options for the students on these visas? So as we've said, applicants on any of those previous visas mentioned cannot lodge another application for a student visa onshore. Therefore, their only option is to go offshore to apply for a new student visa. This will mean that students who have previously been on a 485 visa or a visitor visa of any type, who decide to apply for a new student visa offshore will be subject to a full genuine student check, including passing the genuine student requirement interview, providing a genuine student statement and supporting documents, and meeting the financial requirements, including the minimum sponsor income. So this means that these students will be considered the same as any offshore applicant. Now, we are advised that the chances of these students getting another student visa are not great, particularly if they've already been in Australia for a very long time. So the government is trying to clean this up and reduce the number of these applicants in Australia. Next slide, please, Adam. So the specific exclusions from this update. So students on a 408 visa or the 417 working holiday visa or 462 work and holiday visa, applicants on these visas can still apply for a student visa onshore. So the changes to the legislation really only impact the 485 and visitor visa holders. Applicants on a 408, 417 or 462 can still apply for a student visa onshore. However, these students will also be required to go through a full genuine student check, including interview, genuine student statement and supporting documents, and meeting the financial requirements, unless they are coming to us from a course in a similar background. So, for example, if a student completed a Bachelor of Information Technology, then they applied for a 485 visa, then they got a 408 visa, and now they want to apply for a student visa again to study a Master of Information Technology, we would not require a full genuine student check for those students because their previous academic history is the same as what they're going into. However, if a student had completed, let's say, a Master of Professional Accounting and then gone off and got a 408 visa, and now they want to come back to do a Graduate Diploma of Education in Early Childhood Studies, we would require those students to go through a full genuine student check because their previous study history is not related to the course they're going into. So they will need to explain why they want to study this new course that is not related to their previous courses. Thanks, Adam. Next one. Right, so that is in relation to visa updates. We'll now move on to the process for accepting an offer in StudyLink. Now, many of you will be familiar with this process already, but for those who have only recently gone on to StudyLink, we'll just go through the process for you. So you would log into the student or agent StudyLink portal, depending on who is accepting. Now, what is very important here is that it is essential that when you lodge an application for a student in StudyLink, we must have the student email address as well as your email address. Some agents will put their email address in the student email address section. This can cause problems, particularly if a student is trying to go online and accept the offer themselves. The system will not allow someone to accept an offer if their email address is not in the system. We've had a few cases where an agent has lodged the application, but the student has attempted to go into the portal and accept themselves. Now, students can do that if they want to accept themselves. Most students will have their agent do that for them, but there is an option for the student to do that. However, very often the students will either not know their password or have forgotten their password. And when they try to reset their password, they don't get the reset password email because their email address is not in the system, or they have changed their email address and not updated it in the system. So it is absolutely essential that both your email address and the student's current email address is in the system. Once you log into the portal, you would go to the My Applications tab and then select the application that you are wanting to accept. You click on the Actions button, choose Respond to Offer, and then you select the Accept Offer function. You then go down to the Select University Payment Portal option. Now, the next slide will show you a screenshot of that. So you would tick the declaration box, enter the full name to indicate that the conditions have been accepted, any comments you want to make, and then you tick this University Payment Portal option. Then you would click the Accept Offer button. Next slide, please, Adam. You'll then briefly see a redirect message that will say you are being redirected to the University Payment Portal. Please wait. So don't click out of the system or anything. You're being directed to the payment portal. This will then take you to the Exeter portal, and you should see the correct amount as the grand total when you are on that page. You would then select Visa or MasterCard, for example. Next slide, please, Adam. So you can see that here. You come through to the payment portal and you would select this Visa or MasterCard option. And next slide, please, Adam. And then you will see the amounts and the names, the email address, everything listed out here. You would then click on the Pay Now button. And once you have successfully made that payment, you should see the success message, deposit paid, thank you for your payment, and all of the details will be listed down here. Next slide, please, Adam. Then returning to the StudyLink agent or student portal, the status of the application will change to acceptance received, payment received, and the payment will link through to the admissions team portal for us to action that acceptance. So it really is quite simple. But as I said, it is essential that both your email address and the student email address are accurately listed in the system. If there are any issues, please contact the admissions team. The way to do that is when you're in the StudyLink portal, if you go to the communications tab, you can just click on the last email that was sent to you from the admissions team, reply to that email, and it will attach your response to the student's record, and we will deal with that issue and assist you with any problem that is there. So that is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll pass back to Adam.
Okay. Excuse me. Thank you very much, John. Some useful info there, especially about the visas onshore. So we do have a couple of questions coming through, and a few of them I can answer right now. So there was one person observed, it was Deepa, that said it's an AITSL requirement for a minimum of 45 days of professional experience or industry placement. And if you look closely here at these green boxes, you'll see that there's a 20-day placement unit over T4, T5. There's another 20-day placement unit in T1 and T2. But on top of that, there are an additional 10 days of observational placement in T4 and another 10 days of observational placement in T1. So if you add them all up together, it comes up to 60 days of industry placement as part of the GDEC. So that means that the placement would be a total of 60 days. There's another question there that Deborah has just put in the Q&A, asking when the placements start. So if you have a look at this timetable here, if a student's starting in the intake in June, July, which is starting next week, they do not have a placement during term 3. They start their placement in term 2. So that's going to be during August when the student is out on their first industry placement. If they need to learn more about how the placement works, how they sign up for it, how they get accepted into it, they should make sure that they attend the orientation program. The orientation program for T3 starts on Monday next week, which is the 24th of June. On Tuesday morning, there'll be a placement information session at 9 a.m. So that's Tuesday, the 25th of June. So very important that students attend both of those orientation days so they can learn more about their placements. We had another question there in the chat. It was all about application deadlines. So just going back to this slide here in the blue chart that you can see in the middle of the screen. So T3 orientation is next week, but students can apply all the way until Wednesday, the 3rd of July. So that's not next Wednesday, it's Wednesday after. So 13 days away, students can apply up until 12 p.m. on that day. They would need to go through the whole process and accept the same day. That's the absolute latest they could apply. The next intake is August, which is T4, and students can apply all the way up until the 28th of August. And just a reminder, every student that gets offered a place in the program gets an automatic $5,000 scholarship. If they have a high GPA of 5 out of 7 or above, then they can get an $8,000 Vice Chancellor's scholarship in there. All right, now we have a question here relating to visas. One person has mentioned that they missed the visa update, so I might just zip back to John's slide, which is probably this one. John, could you please just do a quick recap on this? And also there's a question there about if a student's on a 485 and it's going to expire in December, but their course doesn't finish until next June, what options does that student have on an expiring 485? Over to you, John.
Sure. All right. So I'll answer the first question first. So basically from 1st of July this year, students in Australia on a 485 visa, a 600, 601, 602, 651 or 988 visa will no longer be able to lodge an application for a student visa onshore. If they are a current 485 visa holder and their 485 visa expires and they want to apply for another student visa, they cannot do that in Australia. They must leave the country and apply as an offshore applicant. Similarly, a student who enters the country on a visitor visa of any type, either the visitor, the ETA, a medical treatment visa, or e-visitor visa, these applicants will also not be able to lodge an application for a student visa onshore from the 1st of July. In terms of a student who is currently on a 485 visa that will expire in December, but doesn't finish their studies until midway through next year, I'm afraid we can't give you any advice on that other than we will not accept a student on a 485 visa unless they can complete their course within the duration of that 485 visa, or they are eligible for a 485 visa extension. Some students, particularly those in regional areas, are eligible for a 485 visa extension if they provide evidence that they have lodged an application for a 485 visa extension or are eligible to lodge an application for a 485 visa extension. We will accept those students. If they are unable to provide us any evidence of another visa that they are eligible to go on to, we will not be able to accept them. We've had a number of applications recently where an application has been submitted where the student is currently on a 485 visa, but that 485 visa will expire before they can the 485 visa will expire before they complete the course. We have had to deny those applications because the student was unable to provide evidence of any other eligible visa.
All right. Thanks, John. There's a question here about, does a student on 485 or 408 have online study options? Now, just related to that, firstly, in terms of the timing of our classes, for Sydney and Melbourne, we are going to be delivering the classes from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. in the afternoon, evening. We set that up because that was the demand from students that wanted to work and be able to attend classes as well. Now, if a student's not on a student visa, they have the option of attending their class virtually. So they can do it remotely and attend online, but we do encourage students to attend campus when they can. Technically, Sydney and Melbourne are delivering the graduate diploma in a face-to-face fashion, but the classes will be available online and students can attend online. John, did you want to add any detail there about a 485 or a 408 and studying online? Is there anything to be aware of?
No. Basically, if the student is on a 485 or 408 visa, they are not subject to ESOS or national code requirements. So there is no restriction on how they study. If they don't want to attend class and they study online, they are allowed to do so as per their visa conditions. However, as Adam said, we would strongly encourage students to attend classes on campus wherever possible. Of course, the placement cannot be done online. That has to be done face-to-face at the location and at the time arranged by the faculty. So there is no way of getting around that. If a student is working, they will either need to take leave or make an arrangement with their employer to ensure that they can attend that placement. If they don't attend the placement, they cannot progress. So some students are currently on a 485 visa that will expire in August next year. So that is enough time for them to technically complete the course. But if they fail to progress through the course as expected, they may not be able to complete because they won't be able to extend their 485 visa. And they won't be eligible for a new student visa. So it is very important that they attend placement as and when arranged for them.
Good one. Thanks, John. We have a question from Sanket P about the introduction of a Master of Teaching, Melbourne, Sydney, and Perth. So we have some good news there. From term 1 next year, we are aiming to be, number one, bringing the graduate diploma to the Perth campus and also launching the Master of Teaching across Sydney, Melbourne, and Perth campuses all together. So that's still 6 months away. We're aiming for T1 next year. We're just going through the final accreditation for those programs, but that'll give us a lot more of an addressable market with students that need a student visa, etc., to study the courses. John, we got a couple more visa-related questions there. One of them is from Geetan Jali. If a student's on a 485, which is expiring before course completion and provides a bridging visa associated with a 491-190, would the application be accepted?
Yes. Yes. So if the applicant can provide evidence that they have applied for another eligible visa that will allow them to complete, yes, we would accept them. And part of that evidence would be a bridging visa leading to that new substantive visa. That's fine.
Okay. There's a couple of questions there about placements that are pre-arranged or students find their own. The university arranges the placements for students. Some students have asked to arrange their own placements, and the university so far has told them that no, only the university placements are accepted for the course. Back to visas, John, and the 35-year age requirement. If an applicant is 35 years of age at the time of applying for TR, is he still eligible to get TR, temporary residency?
No, basically no. The age requirement has been dropped, so a student must lodge the application before they turn 35 years of age. Yeah, that would be a no. If they lodge it at 34 years, 363 days, then technically they are still 34 years of age and should be able to lodge. But once they turn 35, no.
All right. That's good. All of us young people can still apply. All right. I think we've run out of questions there out of the out of the Q&A at the moment. So just to finally recap, students can apply for T3. The last possible date is the 3rd of July to get the application and the acceptance in. T4 is coming up in August. Students can apply till the 28th of August. Every student receives a $5,000 scholarship from there. And if you do have any accepted students, please try and get them along to orientation next Monday and Tuesday in Sydney and Melbourne. It will definitely help them succeed in their course. So thank you very much for attending, everyone. Please feel free to reach out to Laura, Maria, or myself or John for any questions. But we look forward to seeing you soon and seeing your students on campus. So thanks for attending, and we'll send out a copy of the presentation and a recording by tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.